Hello, sir. Welcome here in Bucharest. Is it possible to summarize for us the key concepts of the Sustainable Urban Mobility Plan in Vienna?
I will try. It's a very complex plan. We started with the idea of integrating the SUMP approach to bring it to our basis of and our planning tradition in mobility. And then we had quite a long phase of evaluation before already. So we already had the data, for example. And what we saw, what was really necessary for the future, is that the cities are running out of public space, more or less. So we need to find a new way to more efficiently use public space. And for us, this means to share it and to not dedicate so much to one or the other transport mode, but sort of to have a more integrated thinking, to think more about sharing, to think more about management. And this is where the new motto of the mobility plan comes from, so together on the move, or miteinander mobil auf Deutsch.
And now how exactly does it look in Vienna? I mean, having an urban mobility plan, how much it's changed the Vienna face?
Well, it's very recent. We adopted it in December, and so far we are still involved with dissemination and communication activities and actually bringing the mobility plan to implementation. That was an idea from the beginning already in the elaboration phase, that we thought, how will it be implemented? Which processes do we need in the future to ensure that something will actually come from the strategy, that something will come from the paper, because the paper itself is nice to have, but only the actual changes in public space, in transport infrastructures, in mobility behavior, only that is something that is felt by the people, and only that is what will help us in the future to have a quality of life environment in the city. And so now we're in this moment, we're thinking about creating, for example, implementation partnerships for very complex projects. But so far it is very early to say that there was already a measurable or a feelable impact in the city from the new concept.
What are the targets of the urban mobility plan in Vienna?
We set up a framework of targets, so it's very hard to only pick one. But the most prominent one in the discussion is always the model split, and it focuses on how are the Viennese moving through town, and here we have currently a situation where it's about like 40% in public transport, 26% are just walking, and 6% are cycling. And for the future, the big vision and the big target is to enhance that to 80% of all trips in sustainable transport in Vienna.
Did you use European funds for creating this plan?
No, not directly. It was financed by the regular city budget. There were obviously several projects preliminary to the SUMP or running in parallel, where we gained knowledge. For example, via Interreg 4, knowledge exchange, or the European Territorial Cooperation transnational projects, where we did learn a lot, and we could try some new concepts also, which were then applied or taken up into the mobility concept. So it's all linked, but the project of mobility plan itself was 100% Viennese financing.
What are your suggestions for the Bucharest municipality in creating a urban mobility plan?
I am not 100% familiar with the situation in Bucharest and how far the planning tradition has come. in the last few years, I get a quite positive impression that a lot is happening, and many very motivated people are working on it, and they have a good energy, and they want to move something. And this is the best starting point actually for improvements. It's very difficult to just formulate and from the external perspective one good recommendation, but it's a long process, and you have to work very hard in all of the small steps. So yeah, don't lose your breath, so to say. That's probably the most important recommendation.
Okay, and final question, how do you see the role of the ICT companies in creating a mobility city?
Well, information and communication technology is becoming more and more important. There is a lot of discussion about in how far communication technologies can substitute the need to travel. So there is a little bit of thought about can this help us reduce congestion or energy use, but it's only at the starting point, I feel. So the data is not broad enough. The database isn't not broad enough to draw general conclusions. Where it really can help us is to create the networks and to create the sort of user experience applications to more easily use sustainable transport. So, for example, real-time information available to you at any moment in the city. There's a lot of the infrastructure and a lot of the innovation is just coming from the ICT sector and has nothing to do with transport planning or direct public subsidies based on transport infrastructure. But yeah, there's a good link there, I think, which will help us in the future.
Thank you so very much, sir.